Welcome to this overview of the Lead4Change model, a model to help schools be deliberate about large-scale school change. Field of Dreams really did us a disservice because the idea of build it and they will come is a myth, especially when it applies to school initiatives such as customized learning or one-to-one learning with laptop or tablet initiatives. Implementing technology for learning takes deliberate leadership. Hi, I'm Dr. Mike Muir. I'm the Multiple Pathways Leader for the Auburn School Department and Director of the Maine Center for Meaningful Engaged Learning. The resources for this Lead4Change model are available on the center's website, mcmel.org, mcmel.org. So let's take a look at the Lead4Change model. Why do we need a separate leadership framework when there's so many good leadership frameworks already? Well, large-scale school change often involves lots and lots of people, departments, organizations, and schools. So it's a complex system, and the leadership model needs to reflect that. Also, educators involved often have never experienced the innovation themselves. That means it's a paradigm shift. And the way you shift paradigms is by paying attention to schema theory, not by providing information. This framework helps address those issues. Where does it come from? Its roots are in the Maine Learning Technology Initiative, the country's first and still only statewide learning with laptop initiative, getting its start in 2001, being in every 7th and 8th grade classroom in the state, and slowly expanding to high school and other grade levels as well. Project leaders got into the middle schools across the whole state, quickly discovered some places were having more success than others, and identified strategies that the successful schools were doing that the less successful schools were not doing. This I eventually worked into a planning model, the doing one-to-one right model, and it's been used for evaluating one-to-one initiatives as well as getting initiatives back on track or planning from scratch. I had the opportunity to work for some schools designed to motivate kids and discovered that large-scale school change, not just one-to-one initiatives, need these same components. And coming to Auburn to be their multiple pathways leader where they're focusing on customized learning, MLTI 7 through 12, and having the country's first one-to-one iPad initiative in the primary grades. We're applying the Lead4Change model to our work. The Lead4Change model has a lot of subcomponents and components, and this diagram is available on the McMel website. A good place to start is simply to look over this diagram and start to familiarize yourself with the components and subcomponents. But let's take a little bit of look at these pieces. One feature of this model is that it makes clear that the desired outcome is learning, positively impacting learning. And it also has two critical components, leadership and teacher practice. And then it recognizes some other components that are necessary, but they're in a supporting role: funding, partnerships, resource management, branding and buzz, and PD for paradigm shift. Key features are that it acknowledges that learning's the desired outcome, recognizes that not all components are the same importance, and recognizes that some of these are in service to others. Let's take a little closer look at the changes in learning. A good one-to-one initiative recognizes that it's about the learning, not the stuff. It's about the learning changes that we can do with technology, not just putting technology in the hands of kids. And one of my favorite quotes is almost 20 years old. One of the enduring difficulties about technology and education is that a lot of people think about the technology first and the education later. But the true value of technology isn't in learning to use the technology, but rather using the technology to learn. The two key components for making these kinds of learning changes are a focus on leadership and teacher practice. One of our first lessons in Maine was that leadership is everything. If we don't have good leadership in place, the initiative falls flat. And it's about being a team effort. In Auburn, we almost start every initiative by putting together a design team so that we've got a diverse group of people working together to bring multiple perspectives to this work. The design team rolls up their sleeves, identifies challenges, works out problems, as well as being champions of the change, talking about the change and why, coaching their peers, and working with the community. And it's about having a shared vision. collaborating with, again, diverse stakeholders, parents, community members, teachers, students, administrators about having a shared vision for the learning in general, not just your initiative, and then having that initiative feed that vision. And it's about positive pressure and support, leadership setting expectations, focusing on the level of implementation, supervising for them. Now, that supervision can be peer observations, formative feedback. It doesn't have to be high stakes supervision. And then providing lots and lots of support, professional development, coaching, access to resources. Now, the teacher practice is the other critical component. We want to look for engaging teaching and that teachers have good classroom management, integration of these tools. And it's about student engagement, making sure that kids are engaged and that we're leveraging these tools to be motivating to students. 6 powerful uses include technology for foundational learning, that's building up that basic understanding and recall, but also technology for applying knowledge, creating with technology, project-based learning, complex reasoning, using technology for learning progress management. Where are students in their learning progression? What's their evidence of learning? What standards have they mastered? What content have they mastered? Using technology to capture student learning so that we can show evidence of what they know and can do. Supporting independent learning. How can technology make it easier for students to be more independent, freeing teachers to work where they're needed, challenging students, uh, intervening, providing interventions or coaching. And how do we strengthen that homeschool connection, connecting parents and classrooms? And if you're just going to use technology the way you always have, why invest in technology? That teacher practice, that technology has to add something to the teaching and learning. The SAMR model from Dr. Ruben Pindadura can help us think about how we do that. S in SAMR stands for substitution. It's a great place to start using technology for what we've done without technology. But then we want to start moving on to augmentation. What's the functional improvement that technology brings over and above what we could do before? And modification, how can we change the task because the technology lets us do things beyond what we could do before? Or redefinition, a task that was inconceivable or wholly impractical without technology. Modification and redefinition let us transform learning. Let's look at the supporting components. Funding, I think about seed money. How will you get your initiative started? But have a we'll find a way attitude. How that can-do attitude can move you forward, especially around funding, but you need it from your leadership and the people working on the initiative. Sometimes you can find savings from avoided costs that can become part of your rationale. What will this technology help you do? Can you reduce special ed students? Can you reduce the number of Title I kids? What can you do that will help you save costs later on? How about textbooks? And then thinking eventually about once your initiative is established, how can you establish sustainable and integrated funding? What about partnerships? I tend to think in 3 types of partnerships. Cheerleader partners, those are the folks who are going to cheer you on, say you're doing a good job, help build goodwill in the community. It could be the Chamber of Commerce or community groups and parent groups. Who are your implementation partners, the people who help you put it into place? The vendors, higher education, State Department of Ed. And who are your pedagogical partners? Who are the ones that are going to help you implement it? Maybe it's other grades in schools. These are the folks that are going to do these exciting, engaging teaching activities with you. Is it the Historical Society, other organizations and institutions, museums and foundations? What about resource management? Resource management is making sure that folks have what they need when they need it. That can be the technology, that can be the internet. There's got to be a we'll find a way support attitude where we support teachers moving forward. And basically, stuff just has to work. Teachers don't care how it works. Students don't care how it works. They just want it to work when they need it. And it's about making things happen, not protecting stuff. Sometimes tech departments are well-intentioned and put a lot of protecting policies or software in place, trying to protect the network or trying to protect the laptops, and then in the process, shut down lots of learning opportunities. And we are actually finding that damage is higher in those schools where there's this strong no tech for you attitudes. And instead, we're finding the least amount of damage in technology in the best shape in places where the tech department's helping teachers make the things happen, help them capture their vision for teaching and learning. Surprisingly, it's about breakage being about teacher practice and leadership. It almost has nothing to do with the technology, it has to do with the school culture, how teachers are using it with students, how engaged students are in their use with technology. The classrooms where the students are really engaged, see the technology as being critical to their learning. That equipment is well cared for. There's very little breakage, very little theft. Both of those things are functions of leadership. What policies and expectations and support are in place to make those things happen? What about branding and buzz? This is a component schools aren't really familiar with. It's about marketing, blowing your own horn, making clear why this initiative is important. But frankly, these initiatives are expensive, sometimes they're controversial, and this level of school marketing is really critical. It's about stating your case. Why is this important? What is your burning platform? What's your moral imperative for making this happen? This can be tough with the community because it focuses on vision and the future. And a lot of communities are appropriately married to their past. How can we also help them be forward thinking and future thinking at the same time? And it's about ongoing communication. Many initiatives that have failed because they stopped communicating with the community. We forget sometimes that our parents constantly turn over as our students get older and move on to other schools. We need to refresh, repeat our communication every couple of years and make sure that we continue to educate the public about what we're doing and why, and involve them integrally in our design work so that they have a say and input into what we're doing. And you've got to present your evidence. Frankly, telling stories will be the most powerful thing with your community. When you want to foster the support of people, find the compelling stories. But data is critical also. It's not as important as stories, but it will open the doors to policy work and grants. And research has to start before the beginning. You need a baseline. So the minute you start thinking about doing an initiative, start collecting the data that you think will help make your case down the road. And frankly, if you're already in your initiative, collect that data now. Don't wait. What about PD for paradigm shift? Why are we talking about professional development for shifting paradigms and not just the typical stuff that we've done in the past? Well, if you look at today's classrooms, they look a lot like yesterday's classrooms. And teachers haven't experienced this before. If you look at the research on paradigm shifting, you can see that we need to give them experiences, not information. So site visits to model schools and model classrooms, or videos, or read stories, not informational articles, articles that tell the story of what's going on in the classroom. And then we have to give teachers experiences in their own classrooms with classroom tryouts. Play, debrief, replay. That means a lot of reflection and dialogue with others. So these are the key components of this comprehensive approach. Essentially, leadership for change is making sure that you're paying attention to all these components. If you want to put this initiative into action, where do you start? Well, go to mcmell.org and find the resources under the leadership section. You'll find supporting resources under customized learning, under motivation, and under technology. But leadership is where you'd want to start. And don't worry about where you are in the process. A lot of initiatives get started and then need to regroup. So middle out is okay. It's never too late to start doing the pieces you need to do. I would start by forming a design team, get that diverse group in place, and make sure that you're working on building a shared vision with multiple stakeholders. And then take a look at the Lead4Change model and get familiar with the components and the subcomponents, even if it's as simple as looking at the handout that's available on the website. There are planning forms there also. You don't need to go through the planning step by step in this order. Jump into any category that you're ready to write down your plans for in your initiatives, and then you can go back and fill in other areas too. You can even, there's some check-in tools there also that go component by component, where your team can write down what are we currently doing, how's it working, how does it relate to the subcomponents, and then check in on where you are doing a good job and where you need some work. The Where are the Holes tool will help you identify where there are gaps in your plan. Go back to your What are we doing chart, check off on the Where are the holes. It's okay to have a hole in a place that you're planning to address in the near future. Maybe it's a semester, maybe it's a year, but don't miss holes that you just forgot about by accident. And there's a brainstorming chart about what could we do that can help you fill those holes. So these resources are available on mcmell.org. I hope your initiative goes well. I hope you're using some kind of a model for planning for all the components and that you're addressing all the components. Maybe Lead4Change will help you with that. But good luck with your initiative.